Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 1D Podcast channel. Today, we're going to be going over our Week 6 predictions for the NFL season, and we're going to give you our top 5 bets at the end.
Yep, and to kick it off, we'll go over last week, Week 5, and how we did. We did very well. There we go. So, for the Week 5 recap, we both took the Steelers and the Panthers, and those worked out. The one we guaranteed was free money did not work out. The Bucs kind of blew it in that game. There was a certain senior citizen who forgot how to count to 4. That was kind of the reason. So, yeah, we apologize for that one. We both got one wrong. Because you got the Seahawks wrong, and I got the Colts wrong. Phillip Rivers looks washed. You got the Cardinals right, -7, and I got the Chargers right, +8. So overall, 3-2, both of us. So if you bet with us, you made some good money.
Unless you bet to the degree that we did, because we had a lot of faith in Tom Brady, and that didn't really go well. I mean, I only put a little extra in, so I was still green on the week personally.
Same.
But it's not like I'm putting in a crazy amount of money into this.
Exactly. Always diversify everything you do.
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, so the next thing will be we'll kick off week 1. Oh, before I move on. So overall right now I'm 4-5-1 and you're 5-4-1, so you have one more game right than me. So I'm in the red and you're in the green.
So far.
Let's see how week 6 kicks off.
Let's go for 5-0 this week.
Hey man, that would be perfect. Okay, so next. Interesting game. This is the newest line as of Wednesday, like around 7 o'clock. So we have the Texans and the Titans. It's going to be Texans +3 points. In my opinion, I really like this bet. The Titans just look like a great team. I had some doubts how they would do after that whole COVID situation and them not really getting to practice at their facility. Didn't know how it would turn out, but it looks like it went well. They beat a really good Bills team by a good margin. The Texans still look like they're in turmoil, so I'm going to take the Titans -3 this week.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, right? Like the last time the Texans and Titans played, I don't think Deshaun Watson was in the game. I believe he was injured. And so it's going to be a completely different game, but last time it was a Derrick Henry show. Derrick Henry had 32 carries, 211 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And
oh my God.
Tannehill did Tannehill things with 2 touchdowns on top of that. And so, I mean, this is a completely different Texans team.
Yes.
The top receivers, it looks like the top receivers of today weren't even on the team previously, or like even playing that game. Not even DeAndre Hopkins. Even the running backs are different. The quarterback's different. Completely different game. But the Texans defense is not good. And Tannehill's just been lights out this season, even if Derrick Henry didn't have a great game last game against Buffalo and still got his touchdown. And, Tannehill looked pretty darn good. The Titans are 4-0 for a reason. The Bills didn't look like they were ready for the Titans for some reason. But that being said, the Titans have been playing closer games, right? So Denver, 16-14 dub. Jacksonville, 33-30 dub. Minnesota, 31-30 dub. Now, that Buffalo game was the first blowout they've had this season. So it'll be interesting to see. I personally, it seems like the Texans are starting to click a little bit more. Deshaun Watson is getting comfortable throwing it to Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb had a huge game last game. And so I feel, and it's like the Texans are just getting going, right? And so I feel like if I had to bet, I just like the Texans a little bit on this one, just because they're on their hind legs trying to get it kickstarted,
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so the next bet we will be looking at will be the Baltimore Ravens against the Philadelphia Eagles. In my opinion, I bet this game last week when I saw the line. I really like the Ravens -8. I just think that the Eagles are not looking too great. The Steelers beat them by, I think, 8. I don't remember. And I just don't have faith in the Eagles. Baltimore's defense, really good. with Lamar Jackson at the helmet. Offense really good. I'm going to take Ravens -8 in this one. What about you?
Yeah, I think this is going to be my top 5. Ravens -8, definitely.
Yeah.
Just because that Eagles team looks terrible. Carson Wentz does not look like his MVP self. He's doing the best with what he's got, I suppose. But even then, there are just times where he's just looking lost. And there are open receivers. He just can't throw them open sometimes. And obviously, you can't put all the blame on him. Offensive line, not the greatest. Receivers, not the greatest. He's missing Dallas Goedert, his best tight end, and his best receiving tight end, honestly. And so you kind of feel for him a little bit just because the team's not good. But Alshon Jeffrey should be coming back maybe this weekend. I don't think it's enough to beat the Ravens. The Ravens are clicking on all cylinders. They made Joe Burrow look stupid, and I think they'll do the same to the Eagles. So Ravens -8, that's a pretty nice bet.
And I think to remember is that the Bengals and the Eagles had a tie game, right? So if you want to go based off that, the Ravens shut down the Bengals. We'll see what they can do against the Eagles. It'll be a fun game.
The Eagles looked promising at certain points against the Steelers.
They did.
And they're always a team that looks like they can upset, right? Like that. Who's that guy? Fulgham?
Dude,
that Fulgham guy.
He looked good.
He looked amazing on third down, especially. That dude was routinely getting open.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on Mike Hilton was on him. And I don't know if it's very hard to get open on Mike Hilton, but and then Miles Sanders had that 75-yard rushing touchdown, which pissed me off for fantasy wise because he ended. You know how many yards he ended with? 80. So, and he had 10 more carries. So, it's not like he was doing well. It's just one run.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. Like Miles Sanders versus the Ravens is probably not going to be a great matchup either.
No.
And that Ravens secondary, I hate to say it, probably better than the Steelers secondary. I mean, that's just objectively true, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so they'll give Carson Wentz some fits.
Yeah, so this is definitely a good bet. I think top 5 worthy for sure. Okay, so
Definitely.
Next bet is going to be the Atlanta Falcons and 4 points against the Minnesota Vikings. I think this is a result of last week as well, where the Falcons lost by a decent margin, even though I think Vegas predicted them to win, and they only gave the Panthers a point, right? And the Panthers just straight out beat them. So Vegas is down on the Falcons. Interesting bet. I really don't like either team. If I had to make a choice, I'd do Falcons in the points. But don't hold me to this one. I wouldn't bet this game.
So this game really hinges on who's playing. Is Dalvin Cook playing? Is Julio Jones playing? Right? So, like, if Julio's playing and Dalvin isn't, maybe take the Falcons and the points. If Dalvin's playing and Julio isn't, I'd probably take the Minnesota Vikings -4. So it's really dependent on who's playing, and it's a tough game to call right now. Obviously, Mike Zimmer is an idiot. Obviously, he said he wanted to go for it on 4th down.
Yeah.
And they could have gone up 9. That's just an idiotic decision. So, and that kind of goes against the Vikings -4. But the Falcons just don't look the greatest. And it's also, Matt Ryan doesn't look very good this season as a whole. He's just like, there are a bunch of games where he has to toss it a lot, right? Like game 1 against Seattle, he had to toss it a lot. And so he had inflated numbers. But more recently, he's missing wide open Calvin Ridley. He's looking terrible. And so but at any point, he's got that potential to break out. So it's like, it's a tough game to choose.
I think I could make a case for the Vikings is that this is like last week where the Texans didn't have a head coach, like they have a new one. Mm-hmm. And so who knows what's going to happen with, I think Raheem Morris is the interim coach.
We know how that goes.
Yeah, very hard to predict. Just stay away from
we know how it goes when Raheem Morris is your coach.
Yeah, we do, unfortunately.
It's not good things.
Next bet. We have...
I would probably go with Vikings -4.
Yeah, if I had to. The Browns and the Steelers. This is going to be in my top 5 for sure. I'm taking the Steelers. Oh, it's -3.5. I thought it was -3 a few days ago. But yeah, I'm going to take Steelers -3.5. They're going to come out, play with the vengeance, maybe bash a few people over the head with a helmet. Who knows? It's Steelers home as well. I'm surprised it's only 3.5 points, but I'm taking the Steelers.
I think it's because the Browns have looked strong as of late. I'm very scared to always bet these divisional games in the NFC North, even against the Bengals. Like they can take a game against the Ravens, they can take a game against the Steelers, and they're a bottom feeding team. And so it's tough. I will say, I hate the Browns. I think Baker Mayfield's overrated, so I'll definitely also I'm a Steelers fan. I think Steelers -5, as much as it's a
3.5
rougher one, -3.5. Sorry. As much as it's a rougher one for me, just because I don't know. Like I said, the divisional games are tougher. I'd also go with the Steelers on this one, and I'd be willing to put in my top 5.
Gotcha. All right, next bet. We have the Cincinnati Bengals against the Indianapolis Colts. Very interesting game. We have two teams that came off really bad losses. In the case of the Bengals, shut out, which is just embarrassing in my opinion. Like
didn't get shut out. They got a field goal.
Oh, they did? Oh wow, I stopped.
They did.
Okay. Well, they had 3 whole points. Phillip Rivers looks bad for the Colts. He could exploit this Bengals defense. Who knows? I'm gonna say, if I had to pick one, I'd give it to the Colts -8, just because against a good defense, Burrow really folded. It'd be interesting to see what they do, and I wouldn't put this on my top 5, but probably take Colts -8.
This one is definitely a tougher one. Joe Burrow has shined against like the bad teams, right? The Browns. Well, I guess the Browns aren't terrible, but they don't have the greatest secondary. The Eagles, the Jaguars. He didn't put up many points in week 1 against the Chargers, and that's a good defense. But it also was his very first game, no preseason or anything, so that's tough too. Also, when your running back wasn't really like performing, it's hard to, get a rhythm going on the offense. You saw when Joe Mixon got going, they really did well, like against the Jaguars. So I think it's the problem is mostly Joe Mixon, in that if he does well, it translates to a better offense for the Bengals overall because it just flows with the system better. I do think the Colts take this game. I just don't. Phillip Rivers has had some easy, cushy defenses to play against, and he just hasn't put up much of anything.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor isn't rushing very well. I mean, he's rushing fine. Like, he's a good starting running back, but his stats aren't really popping out at you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, let's see, he's got a 4 yards per carry, which is good, right? It's respectable. And the more he plays, the more accustomed he'll be. And in a game like this, Jonathan Taylor should do great, right? Because they should have an early lead and they're just running it a lot. But Philly Riv, not the Philly Riv of old. He just had his best game was against the Jaguars, and he threw that game away. He lost that game for him. And so it's tough, right? Like, this is a terrible Bengals defense, and he should be able to exploit it. But if I were to pick one of these two, I'd probably go with the Bengals and the points.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't really know which way to lean. I'm just not going to touch it. But I can.
Well, just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, they've played close games every game except for against the Ravens, right? Mm-hmm. They haven't played the greatest teams other than the Ravens, but they played the Browns and they only lost by 5, right? So it's like, and it was at Browns, and so, Joe Burrow's going to try his best, and I think he'll try and rebound from a terrible performance last week. And it seems like AJ Green's not happy.
No.
Maybe if they trade him away, it'll get the offense moving even better. Like T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, those guys can get going. So yeah, I'd go with Bengals +8.
Gotcha.
But not in my top 5, most likely.
So yeah, this one, very iffy. Next game, the Detroit Lions -3.5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. In my opinion, Gardner Minshew has looked like he's regressing. The Jaguars had like promise after week 1 because they beat the Colts. Haven't really looked that great recently. The Lions defense is very porous though. Like, they always blow leads. I think it'll be a close game. Maybe one team wins by a field goal or the other. Don't lean too strongly one way or the other, so I'm not gonna touch this one. How about you?
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it, but I will say, what's the line? It is
3.5.
Jaguars plus points. Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, I wouldn't. I don't feel too strongly about either team winning. I do like how Matt Stafford's getting slowly but surely back into the swing of things. He's looking more and more like Matt Stafford of old.
Yep.
And that just shows in his touchdowns numbers. And I think by the end of the season, I'll have more faith in these Lions just because once they're all put together, I think they'll do much better. So Matt Stafford's still coming back from that terrible injury, season-long injury. And so I think if I had to pick one, that's tough. The Lions, I'd probably take the Jaguars in points just because it's home for them. The Lions either lose or get a close victory. And so it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like either team.
Yeah, I would go with the Jags and the points. I agree. I think it's a close game and therefore take the team with the points. But neither of us are going to put it in our top 5. Nowhere near it. Next game.
Not even close.
The Chicago Bears +2 now against the Carolina Panthers. I think this game was Bears +3 on Monday or Tuesday when I checked last. Interesting game. I do like the Bears in this one. Like you were saying in our little off break, the Panthers look crazy good. Don't know if CMC is back. Do you have any update on that?
It said that I was looking it up. It says it doesn't sound like Christian McCaffrey will be back in time to face the Bears from Bleacher Nation. Okay. But how do you know? You know?
Yeah, but
and even if he's not back,
he's been filling in perfectly.
Exactly. Yeah. Like he makes that offense spin, and it's like it's interesting, right? The Panthers, they've looked pretty good this season, right? Yeah. They've only lost 2 games, and they were to 2 pretty good teams, the Bucs and the Raiders. And they beat the Cardinals. That was a surprise. And they beat the Chargers and Falcons, who they probably should have beaten. I'm sure they weren't favored in those games, but they weren't favored against the Falcons. But Teddy Bridgewater looks great. Mike Davis looks great. Robbie Anderson looks amazing. He's finally on a team that'll actually get in the ball. He looks like a wide receiver 1 material type guy.
Yeah.
Against the Bears have also looked very good. It's that defense, right? They don't give up very many points, and Nick Foles didn't look the greatest against the Bucs. He didn't look good at all against the Colts. And the Panthers defense is also it's not bad, it's not good, right? And so this is going to be a tougher game to pick between. The Panthers are favored. I'd go with that because I just think
you'd go Panthers -2.
Yeah, I think Teddy Bridgewater's on a roll.
Gotcha.
He the first 2 weeks you could tell he's like starting to get into the offense, and I really like what he said one time to the team. He's like, we don't really know each other when talking about team chemistry, and so I think that whole practice day they took the time and got to know each other, and then that week I think is when they beat the Cardinals, and so they're really gelling now. Everyone seems like they're having a good time on the Panthers. I think that team is a scary team, honestly. They're tied for first in the NFC South, right?
I think so. Yeah.
That's insane. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'd give it to the Panthers.
Gotcha. I'm actually going to take the Bears on this one. I just feel like the Bears played an NFC South team last week. They're going to play the Panthers this week. Again, the Bucs defense is no joke, and Nick Foles did okay against them. Started off slow, but I think they'll get into the gist of things. You mentioned chemistry. This will be Foles' second start for the Bears, right? So I feel like they'll be on the same page a little more. Bears defense is great. Bring pressure to the quarterback. Bridgewater is more mobile than Tom Brady, I'll give you that, so he can ad-lib a little better. But I do like the Bears plus the points. I may change my mind. This wasn't my top 5, but I may change it now that it's only +2. Because I envision it being a close game. So yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
It's a tougher one, right? Because it's the first week that Brady didn't have Chris Godwin or O.J. Howard. And so, Tyler Johnson filled in great. And I think like the Bucs offense was kind of hindered at that time, and so they didn't look the greatest. Also, Tom Brady doesn't know how to count his downs, and so yeah, the Bears look good against the Bucs, but I do think the Panthers holistically, they're gelling way better than the Bucs are right now.
Yeah, I would agree. So moving on to the next next game, it's going to be the Battle of the Trash Dumps in the NFC East is their division. I don't even remember. You don't need to remember. It's going to be the Washington football team plus 2 points against the New York Giants. I don't know if it's in the top 5, but I'm definitely doing Giants minus 2.5. Like you were saying earlier, the Giants defense is crazy good. I don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be for the Washington team. Be it Alex Smith or Kyle Allen. I think that defense will hold them to not too many points. And Giants will score enough to win. Close game. I'd say the Giants win by a field goal. So I'm going to take Giants minus 2.5.
Yeah, this is tough, right? Because the Giants just don't look good. And the Giants have a good defense, but I also think the Washington football team has a really good defense, especially that line.
Yeah.
And that D-line will give Daniel Jones some fits, probably turn over the ball because he has fumble issues. And so, it's tough. Right? I'm trying to figure out who's starting for the Washington football team next week. It's probably going to be Alex Smith, but Alex Smith, like, as much as I'm rooting for him, he looked lost. He was always under pressure. He held the ball on for too long. It looked like he didn't want to throw an interception, so he didn't even throw the ball sometimes. And so once he came in the game, the offense just fell flat until they just started checking it down to J.D. McKissick towards the end of the game, and that's when they started rolling a little bit. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Alex Smith just came in the middle of the game. How are you going to expect him to just ball out immediately, right?
It happened really fast, yeah.
Yeah, so it's tough. So I don't know, it's weird, right? I think Alex Smith will get a boost of confidence knowing that he got sacked by Aaron Donald and was able to get up and play the next down, right? But they both have good defenses.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a close game. Might be in my top 5, and I'd take Washington plus the points.
Interesting. Okay. This is not going to be in my top 5. Next game. Okay. I think the fun fact about this game is it's like one of the only 2 or 3 afternoon games this Sunday, which just really sucks because no one wants to watch this.
Yeah.
There's going to be Adam Gase seeking revenge against his former team. I wonder how.
The storyline is crazy.
Yeah, dude.
You know what will be crazy? If Le'Veon Bell joins the Dolphins, I think that's the perfect fit.
Yeah, man. It could
because I think the Dolphins need that running back presence, right? I mean, I love Myles Gaskin. I think he's great. He's doing great on the Dolphins right now. Mm-hmm. But they probably need a veteran presence, and Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, I don't think are giving that to them. The line is crazy. I do think the Dolphins destroy the Jets, but you just never know, right? If Joe Flacco's playing, could he be Joe Flacco of old? He didn't look great last week, but I mean, it's a weird game. But the Dolphins do look promising, right? They just obliterated the San Francisco 49ers. They looked really good against the Seahawks. They beat the Jaguars. They played close against the Bills, and they just lost to the Patriots week 1. They just couldn't score, right? And Ryan Fitzpatrick, that was his only bad game of the season. And so, the Jets are terrible. So I would take Miami minus 9.5 on this one. But I'm definitely not putting it in my top 5.
Yeah, I'm not either. And personally, we don't bet these games. Those lines are too big. Very hard to predict. And garbage time again could happen. Although even with the Jets, I don't think they could score in garbage time. They're that bad. So who knows?
I mean, Jamison Crowder can, and that's the only threat that they have. Yeah. So I'm glad he's on my fantasy team. But
yeah, you're asking a lot with 9.5 points. That's a touchdown and then some. Very hard to do. Next game. So this is one of those. Oh wow, that's an interesting odd and bet. So this game is like a new game. It was a previous game prior. They're reworking the schedule. It's going to be the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. Kind of a news update. It happened today. Melvin Gordon got charged with a DUI. I don't know what that means for his availability. In this game, next game, the week after, I have no idea. I don't know what kind of repercussions he's going to face. But what a stupid move on his part. Don't drink and drive, folks. Other than
you know what I learned recently?
Yeah.
The NFL provides free transportation to every single player.
Wow. Okay.
So it's like, why? That's kind of appalling that anyone gets a DUI in the NFL.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, he has the money to get Ubers and whatever he wants. It just stupid mistake, dumb decisions. So that means Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman are going to be the backs for the Broncos. Don't know if Drew Lock is back. So if they don't have like one of the key offensive pieces, because on the receiver side, Judy looks so meh for me, and Cortland Sutton's out for the season. If Melvin Gordon is gone, and Philip Lindsay's dealing with turf toe, and he's just got back and is in like limited like availability, man, not good for the Broncos. I don't know Cam's situation if he's playing or not. I think he should be good to go. It's been a week. Based on his symptoms, I have no idea if he was asymptomatic or what. Don't know the exact protocol, but I will take the Patriots minus 10 points. Even though I said, like, these games are hard to predict because of the points, if I had to pick, Patriots minus 10, because those Broncos are not looking good.
So, they're not looking very good. They played a terrible team in the Jets, but that guy, Tim Patrick, he looks good as receiver. I'll buy it. It was against the Jets, but he also scored against the Bucs. I think I forget the Ripien, whatever his name is.
I think it's Ripien.
Yeah, he he looked good and bad at the same time, right? It was against the Jets, and if he looks good and bad against the Jets, then you're not a good quarterback.
Yeah.
And so if I had to bet, I would take the Patriots and the points, especially if Cam Newton's playing.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to run all over that Broncos line.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I mean, Stephon Gilmore probably not playing.
Yeah.
But does that really matter when the quarterback situation's pretty bad?
Exactly.
But if Cam Newton's not playing, I do see. So Cam Newton to rejoin team on Thursday. So probably he's playing. So yeah, I would probably take Patriots minus 10.
Yeah, and Belichick's defense is always great. So
right. Especially against young quarterbacks, too.
Yep. Okay, so next bet. This line changed on me, and I'm kind of mad. I bet at minus 2 points. So now it's the Packers minus 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very interesting game. It's going to be a very fun game, too. So I'm very bullish on the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers is like in pristine form and condition. I don't know if Devontae Adams is coming back, but that'll just make it even sweeter. It doesn't matter who he has at receiver. They're going to score tons of points. Rodgers has his arm back. He even said this is the first time in like 10 years or whatever that his arm isn't injured in some capacity, and like it shows. Aaron Jones is great. Jamal Williams mixes it up in the backfield as well. I think the Packers win this by definitely more than 1 point. So I'm taking the Packers. And it's a top 5 for me.
I was going to take the Bucs and the points, but Chris Godwin was limited at practice. Mike Evans was out of practice. And so if you don't have your top pass catchers, I don't know how well. I mean, Brady does well with anything that he has, but against Aaron Rodgers, that'll be tough, right? And so you think that the last time the Patriots played, last time Tom Brady played the Packers, they won 31-17, but that was in 2018.
Oh, wow.
And
I think this is actually, I think I remember this. This is going to be the third time they play each other, and they're 1-1 against each other in the past. So,
okay,
yeah, a very unique situation.
It does look like that, and it looks like the Packers have. Oh wait. It looks like the Patriots won both times.
Interesting. Okay.
Unless, maybe Aaron Rodgers wasn't the quarterback in 2014. I don't know. But, no, he was. So they lost twice, it looks like, to the Patriots. And it was by more than I don't know. I don't know how to read. This is a weird website I'm looking at. But if the Patriots run, I mean, if the if the Bucs run game gets going,
Yeah.
I think that would be essential, right? You dominate the time of possession. That's what Tom Brady has done his entire career, right? He dominates the time of possession in the game with the well-timed runs, and if the run game is going, which it looks like it is right now, Ronald Jones is going. If Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are playing, then I would definitely take the Bucs and the points. Even though Aaron Rodgers looks insane this season, that Bucs secondary looks suspect, and even when they're not looking suspect, they're just giving up penalties at all times.
Yep.
And so it's tough to bet against Aaron Rodgers, given that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are hurt. Yeah, I'm not touching this one.
I like that you bring up the penalties too, because I don't think the Packers are a very heavily penalized team this year. So they just look tighter. They've been together 1 year longer. Again, they went to the NFC Championship game last year. I think they rolled through the Bucs. We're Bucs fans. I really don't want to see them lose, but I just feel like you mentioned the run game. Great point, but I also feel like Rodgers can score in like a minute and a half if he needs to, right?
He can,
given the explosiveness of that offense. So
and Devontae Adams looked really close to returning last week. He was so frustrated that he wasn't playing because he thought he was going to, and so that'll give the Bucs secondary some fits. But it's Tom Brady, dude, and he's on the Bucs, and I think that if there's any team that can beat the Packers, I think it's this Bucs team.
Okay.
If they got the receivers here.
Yeah.
I just think that Brady understands. Brady usually understands how to beat those tougher opponents, except Drew Brees.
And what's interesting about this game is that people are betting the Bucs, right? Because earlier in the week, this was Packers -2 and Bucs +2. So now they're giving the Bucs less points and the Packers more, which is why I like it a little more now. But yeah, interesting bet. Next game. This is going to be the Los Angeles Rams with their ugly new logo. I changed that. And the San Francisco 49ers with CJ Beathard. I don't know if that's true. I don't know who's starting. Jimmy Garoppolo looks, off. Don't really know what's going on with him.
It was just one game.
Yeah, and what I mean by don't really know what's going on is don't really know what's going on with his ankle, right? I don't know how close he is to returning. I don't know how severe it is. I don't know if he's going to be able to put the weight on it to, do well. So I have no idea. It looked like he wasn't getting the force on the ball. Like he was trying to put it in places, but it just wasn't getting there, and that's what led to those interceptions and poor play. So if I had to go, I would take the Rams in this game. Don't know what Jimmy G's condition is going to be like. And, people like to hate on Jimmy G, but the fact is, the record of the 49ers is with and without him, ignoring last week, of course. It's clear as day. With Jimmy G, they win infinitely more. So if he's an unhealthy version of himself, I don't like this. I don't like the Niners. So I'd go with the Rams. And again, I'm not betting this because I don't know his condition for this game.
I think the Niners are going to come back with a vengeance. They're embarrassed that they lost to the Dolphins. And Jimmy G usually plays decent against the Rams. Not the greatest, but if Raheem Mostert's healthy, I think Tevin Coleman might be healthy too. That run game is going to be huge against the Rams. And we'll see. The Niners defense does not look as good as it usually does. Probably because, they're missing Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa. And is Richard Sherman still out? I think he is.
I think he may be back. I don't know.
He may be back. But I do think Jimmy G, if he can return back to the form that he was in the first few games where he looked pretty good, great passer rating, everything like that. He looked terrible against the Dolphins. You're right. He couldn't really put any force on the ball, it seemed like. That Dolphins defense, I think, is better than this Rams defense. Funny enough to say.
Okay.
And the Rams, they're just a weird team, right? They look terrible against the Giants. They looked pretty good against Washington, and they look good against the Bills. But It's at Niners. I mean, it was at Niners with the Dolphins too, but it just didn't work out. I'd go with the Niners and the points.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, again, not betting this game. For me, just because I don't know Garoppolo's condition. Next game.
Makes sense.
Interesting line. It's going to be the Cardinals minus 2 points against the Dallas Cowboys, who obviously lost Dak Prescott to a terrible injury. His timetable is 4 to 6 months, I believe, which is insane given how gruesome it looked. I like the Cardinals in this. Dalton is new. I think a reason that the Cowboys were able to put up those points is because Dak has that mobility. I do love Dalton, but that O-line, like I mentioned as well, has 2 undrafted rookies, I believe. That is just not a formula for success, especially if you have a quarterback who's getting up there in age and who's not as mobile. So I like the Cardinals minus 2. Might be in my top 5.
Cardinals do look like they're starting to roll again. They had the perfect matchup last week going against the Jets. DeAndre Hopkins should have a day against the against this Cowboys
insane
defense, and so I'm also going Cardinals minus 2, and that's probably going my top 5.
Yep.
And given how the Cardinals have done for me so far, 1 right, 1 wrong, let's see what happens this week.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this is the last game for this week, at least according to Bovada. So on the next slide, we're going to have our top 5 bets for the week. So this will be our top 5. We have the week 6 top 5, mine and your picks. I will go in my order first, and I'll list yours. So I have the Packers minus 1, the Cardinals minus 2, the Ravens minus 8, the Steelers minus 3.5, and the Titans minus 3. Interesting for me is that I'm taking all teams minus points. I think I did
Usually
that
I'm the one who does that.
Huh?
Usually I'm the one that does that.
Exactly.
Last week we took Panthers in the points.
We did. Can you see the screen or no? Not yet?
I can't. But my top 5 is Steelers, Ravens, Cards, Niners, Dolphins.
Yes.
Now, my 5th pick was very close. Dolphins or Washington. I like both of them. So bonus pick Washington plus 2. But I like the Steelers this week. I think they continue. They're looking hot. And that Roethlisberger to Claypool connection, I've been calling it since the beginning of the season, since before the season even started. It's looking nice. And if Claypool's getting going, he only ran a certain percentage of the route. He was very efficient on his route running and touchdowns and production. So hopefully that continues, but he looked amazing. And so if he's getting going, if Deontay Johnson comes back, which it looks like he is, if Juju, is Juju, and then the running backs keep doing what they're doing because they've got a great stable of guys there, I think the Steelers will take it just because they're home as well. It's going to be a hard-fought game, that's for sure. Browns and Steelers do not like each other. Myles Garrett will be on that line.
Yep.
Mason Rudolph will be on the sidelines this time. So it's a completely different game from last time, but way better offense, and I believe that game was pretty close anyway last time. And so with Ben Roethlisberger at the helm, I'll take that. Ravens. Eagles look terrible. This is do I even need to explain this?
Exactly. We agree with those two.
Yeah. Even if it's Eagles home, the Eagles just look terrible. They've got nothing to stop the Ravens, and the Ravens will be able to stop Carson Wentz. And I would definitely hope so.
Yep.
Cardinals, their offense is getting going. They got to play the Jets. That's the perfect matchup that they needed to get clicking again.
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins should look great against that Dallas secondary, and maybe Kenyon Drake does something. Who knows? But Chase Edmonds, I love that guy. He can be a running back 1 on almost any team.
Yeah.
Niners plus 3.5. I like Niners and the points. I think the Niners do play well against the Rams usually, and hopefully Jimmy Garoppolo can bounce back. I hope he plays and get that rapport going with Deebo Samuel, who just came back. He's looking good with Ayuk. And all the running backs are pretty much healthy. Mostert looked great last week, even though he didn't get to rush very much. And then I was just thinking about it, dude. The Dolphins, they look good. Their defense looks good. I feel like they'd be able to stop the Jets, especially minus Le'Veon Bell. And their offense is clicking, and who can't do well against that Jets defense, right?
Yeah.
And even Denver Broncos looked amazing against them, which is no easy task. And so, yeah, I'll take Dolphins minus 9.5. That'll be the most risky one. I wanted to get a little risky out here.
Okay.
As a bonus pick, I've got Washington +2.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Antonio Gibson will have a decent game against the Giants, and then hopefully that run game can balance out the lack of a passing game. Hopefully Alex Smith, now he can shake off his rust and get going against this Giants defense, which looks good, but I think that Washington defense will give Daniel Jones some fits. I think he will fumble the ball at least twice, and it's going to be an interesting game. That'll be an ugly one, but I think it'll be a fun one.
Gotcha. So, yeah, we have 3 in common. Agree with your reasoning totally on those 3. I like the Packers -1. I just feel like they're on a roll. They're more combined as a team, more synergized. So I really like them against the Buccaneers, who are a little more iffy. You did mention that Evans and Godwin are hobbled, so that's going to be interesting. And then I do like the Titans -3 against the Texans. Texans don't look good. No head coach. Well, they do have one. A little bit off, so we'll see what happens there. So, yeah, these are our top 5. We were 3-2 last week. Maybe we'll go 4-1, 5-0. Who knows?
I'm going 5-0.
Looks like a good week. Last week was a little more iffy. This looks like there's some good bets on the table. So, yeah, let's see what we do.
Let's go, man. Let's make some money.
Yep, exactly.